Hey guys, Jen Daly here. If we haven't met before, I am a therapist and a family coach, and I have been making videos every day for parents and for kids to help with dealing with all of the different stresses that we're dealing with during the coronavirus pandemic. Today's video is just for the grown-ups, maybe for older teenagers too, but many of them aren't on Facebook anyhow. So if you are a little one watching today, this one is not for you. Today is for the grown-ups. So, I want to talk to you guys today about why we are so stressed and how ridiculous it is about what we're dealing with right now. So, let's consider, forget about a global pandemic for a second. Why are we so stressed in general as adults in this world? Let's jump back 8 weeks ago before we knew that there was going to be a global pandemic. Um, we're constantly dealing with pressure to optimize, right? You've got to be great at your job and a super parent and a wonderful friend and a lovely cook and have a wonderful home and all of these things. But of course, wages have been flat or declining, I think, for 20 or 30 years. So that's really hard to do. And then we've got all of these inappropriate demands placed on us given the current circumstances. I mean, who is good at working from home full time if they're usually working in an office environment while also taking care of our children, while also carrying the emotional load and doing all of these things? The demands on us and the expectations on us that are often being put on us by middle managers are not fair and not appropriate things to be doing right now. Then we've got social media. So we get to constantly compare ourselves to others and reflect on how others are showing this beautiful life they have. And look, they're making their own sourdough starters and baking beautiful loaves of bread and art and gardening and all of that. And, maybe they're showing you their workout routines and all of that stuff. And so we're on this constant state of comparison for others because of how social media kind of operates. And then we're in a hyper-polarized environment anyway. Things are either all good or all bad. Kale will either save your life or it's the most disgusting thing in the world. The president is either the best president ever or a flaming dumpster fire. It's just a really, really polarized environment. And then there are expectations that people have that society has on all of us, where we're supposed to be great at everything and do everything effortlessly and be able to also relax and be mindful and bring gratitude and positive thinking to our daily lives. And you know what? I'm not real positive about this pandemic because that's not really a way to be for me about something that needs to be taken very seriously. Because we're also all dealing with economic anxiety, even if you're okay, right? Even if you and your partner are doing financially okay, it doesn't mean that you're not worried about the future. It doesn't mean that you're not trying to think about cutting back spending here or there, or thinking about okay, so we're all right for right now, but what is this going to look like in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years? If I'm supposed to be retiring in the next 10 or 15 years, how is the stock market going to recover so that my 401ks and Roth IRAs and all of those things are still, doing well? And, if you're younger, not looking towards retirement, maybe you're dealing with an income loss, but you have all private student loans that you can't really refinance and you're not getting any relief from, because the relief for student loans is only for public loans, federally held loans. So we're dealing with all of these crazy expectations and stresses on top of a global pandemic, right? Or maybe we're dealing with all of that stuff anyway, and now we're putting a global pandemic on top of it. So I want to just let you know that this is a crazy time with insane expectations on everybody, and we all need to take a step back, have a breath, and let's get grounded in reality here, okay? Ross Greene, who's the originator of collaborative and proactive solutions, which is a way to work with children, he has a quote that I often mention, is that kids do well when they can. And I extrapolate that to parents and to grown-ups and grandparents and teachers and everybody, that nobody wakes up in the morning saying, today I'm going to be the worst parent ever. I'm going to be a real jerk to my kids. I'm going to spank them. I'm going to lose my temper. And then I'm going to feel guilty about it and drink a lot of wine, eat a lot of brownies, and have them watch screens for 8 hours. None of us wake up that way, right? None of us, that's not the plan for the day. That's not the agenda. That's just what we sometimes wind up doing. Because the truth is, it's really hard to be good at this. And if you're around my age, if you're, say, like maybe anywhere in like the 20 to 50-year-old range, right? We are all expected to be really good at stuff. Whatever we do, we're supposed to be really good at it. Particularly if you're, say, middle to upper middle class, you're supposed to be great at stuff and you're supposed to not need any help and it's supposed to look effortless because that is how society has tried to, push us in that direction. That like, oh, you should be able to do all of these things. Both adults in a household, in a two-parent household, working full time at flat wages for 20 or 30 years, while also carrying unsustainable student debt and mortgages and things like that, are also expected to be able to be home and bring your children to a million different activities that cost $1 million. But if you like have a nanny, then you're a jerk, or if you have a housekeeper, then you're lazy, or whatever. Right? We're dealing with all of that stuff. But the truth is, adults do well when they can also. So let's get real, folks. You're going to wake up every morning and you're going to say, today's going to be different. Today's going to be some other way. And then when it doesn't go all of these ways that you expected it to go based on all of this stuff that's being hoisted upon us, then you're going to feel bad and wrong and guilty about how your day went. But you know what? I watched an awful lot of TV when I was a kid and I'm doing all right. And I don't know, maybe when I was 12 or 13, we got AOL Instant Messenger and I spent a lot of time on there too. And I'm okay. So that our kids are spending lots of time on screens and social media, that we're maybe scrolling through our phones and zoning out and not really being as attentive as we can. Or if we're like trying to strive to be grateful, like all of these like positive parenting podcasts are telling us to be like, bring some gratitude. You'll never have so much time with your children again. Really embrace the joy of it. You know what? For like the 16th temper tantrum today from your kids like Barrette being wrong or them desperately needing a new Band-Aid or, they just want to go to the playground and don't understand or they can't quite get themselves together to put their socks on, right? Like it is okay to not be grateful for those moments, right? There's no judgment for not being grateful or positive in every moment. There's no judgment for not being great at being a full-time working parent during a global pandemic while also trying to support the emotional needs of your kids and yourself and your partner and your friends and your family and all that. Like we can't do all of this stuff. We can't be good at all of this stuff all of the time. So if you're finding yourself vacillating between like, okay, we kind of got this and wanting to cry and melt down and give up, and that's just where you're bouncing around, cool. That's an okay place to be. You are a human being. Human beings have various emotions throughout the day and they go up and they go down and they go up and they go down. None of us can be really, really good at all of what's required of us right now. We can all be adequate. So what does it look like to be adequate, right? Are your kids fed? Have they like not seriously injured themselves? Have you not like started being a parent from the child called it? No. Then you're being adequate. We're all doing the best we can. So instead of striving to be like good at being a full-time stay-at-home parent while also a full-time employee, while also a full-time, homeschooling remote learning teacher, while also trying to like learn to bake bread and exercise every day and work on your body and all of this stuff, like how about we strive for adequacy? Did your kids get some level of nutrition today, like a peanut butter sandwich? And did you get some level of self-care today? Like, I don't know, locking yourself in the bathroom and not letting the kids in so you have 5 minutes of peace? Okay, that's adequate. That's enough. So what if the kids didn't do their schoolwork? So what if, you didn't get everything done or you had to hop off of a conference call from work because your kids were having a meltdown over something or another? Like, actually, so what? Why does that matter, really? If you are being adequate, that's enough. So today, I just want you to embrace being good enough. Adequate is good enough. Strive for a solid D, right? A D is still passing. You can still graduate high school with a D. What if you strive for a D? And anything over a D, great, bonus, gravy, extra points for you. But anything less than over a D is bonus, okay? So hang in there, folks. I know that this is a really tricky time and that there are moments during the day where you feel like you're totally nailing it. And, 10 minutes later, you feel like you've fallen, into the deepest pits of despair. That's all totally normal to be feeling right now. I mean, normal given that we're in a global pandemic with all of these crazy things going on all these wild expectations going on. But I want you to know that adequate is more than good enough. Okay? So embrace the adequate, embrace the mediocre. You know, you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to go to bed at night, and whatever happens in between, so long as you're not like the parents from A Child Called It, you're doing all right. And if you don't know about that book, this is not the time to read it, but it's a book about a kid who is pretty horribly abused. Anyway, if you're not doing that, if you're not being awful 100% of the time and dehumanizing your children 100% of the time, you're doing all right. You're doing adequately. So let's embrace being mediocre in this pandemic, right? And then you might surprise yourself once you let it go. Until I see you next time, guys, thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.